Of course, it is a historical moment here at Africa News Network, First Fast Live, where we're holding a press briefing live on television. It's never been done before, and we're really honored to have our colleagues. Of course, the pertinent questions that have been in the media domain were around of ANN7 and the New Age newspaper by Manyi, who is the chairman of Lodidox. And we have our colleagues, as I mentioned. Welcome, guys. Thanks so much for joining us. It is a quick, fast, and hopefully painless as well, Mr. Chairman. We'll give you an opportunity to make your presentation, to clear any allegations or misgivings around fronting and all of that, and then take questions on the floor. It's over to you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Thank you very much, Cindy. And good morning, colleagues, and also good morning to all the viewers. I'll go straight into it. In my capacity as the chairperson of Lodidox Pty Limited, I have received numerous demands from several media entities to grant access or make public the shareholders register of the company. These demands, notwithstanding that they are not unlawful, are, however, rather unusual to make to a private startup company and not often directed to other companies in South Africa in similar circumstances. Two media entities have even sent letters from their lawyers to have access to the shareholder register and even threatened to institute legal criminal charges against me if I did not comply. My initial stance was indeed to meet them in court, and it was informed by my right to privacy, but I later decided to waive that right in the public interest. It was indeed disappointing, but not unexpected, to see rather malicious reporting and demeaning innuendos in media coverage related to the purchase of Lodidox, of media entities, the New Age, and our 24 News channel, ANN7. I've decided, in the spirit of transparency and public interest, to make available to the public the details of Lodidox shareholder register as requested and other related documents, with an express hope that the baseless negative reporting, speculations, and the rumor mongering will come to a grinding halt. I have brought all the shareholders related documents for public viewing by media, and trust that the information shared here will be reported to the public to correct the malicious narrative. I also want to dispel the myth surrounding the special purpose financial vehicle used to purchase the two media entities from Oak Bay Investments. Vendor financing is not an invention of Manyi. This must be very clear. I did not invent this instrument. It has been a common feature of structuring deals in the country in recent years in effecting black economic empowerment. Some of the more prominent vendor finance deals in recent times include Lonmin providing Shanduka with vendor financing amounting to 2.26 billion rands in 2011. This made it possible for Shanduka, led by our Deputy President, Comrade Cyril Ramaphosa, to acquire a 50.03% stake in Ingwala, Lonmin's designated BE vehicle. That's just one of them. We have more. I can list them. We've got Patrice Mutsipe, who started his mining business with an $8 million loan from Anglo American, and from which payments would have been made from future profits. So the list goes on. There are also other vendor financing deals between Dimension Data and Anile Ngaba's Convergence Partners in 2012, and Shanduka giving a 10.5% stake in the company to Lilita, a women's empowerment group, in 2009. So I can go on. There's actually nothing unique nor original with the vendor financing provided by Oak Bay Investments to Lodidox for the purchase of the two media entities. The hypocritical response to it actually exposed the ignorance, if not malice, by those who made negative comments. I have concluded the transactions with confidence about the viability of the two media companies. This is based on the resilience and profitable growth potential which the New Age showed over the 6 years since its launch. In addition, the ANN7 is also showing a profit as we speak and a reasonable return on the several hundred million rand capital investment made since 2013. I reject with contempt the calculations and forecasts made by various publications based on unrelated minority share disposal figures in the public domain versus the profitability of the New Age and ANN7. There's some 50 million figure doing rounds, which is totally mischievous and misleading. The intention is clearly to cast aspersions, undermine and denigrate the historically significant purchase of this media entity by a black person and an African in particular. The New Age and ANN7 employ close to 500 staff whose jobs have been saved by this deal, a point which has escaped a lot of the reportage on this matter. In fact, we also plan to attract a lot more new talent as we grow this business. We are encouraged by the early signs of renewed confidence in the two entities following the announcement of the acquisition. We've begun to rekindle relationships that had been somewhat poisoned, so to speak. In conclusion, my disclosure of the shareholders register and related documents is an indication of my commitment to transparency and good corporate governance. I hope that other media companies will demonstrate the same openness in their businesses, in their business dealings when called upon to do so. In here is a file, which, in fact, I think I want to invite is Polly van Wyk here?
Yes, here's a list of the journalists that are here, Mr. Chair.
Okay. No, okay. Okay, we've got a lot of journalists that are here from various. Can you just read who else is here? But I'm interested in two main people here, more than others. I'm interested in Polly van Wyk and Jan de Wet, simply because we had some engagement electronically, either in Twitter or in WhatsApp. So can I invite you to please come be the first to have come right here. I have and Polly van Wyk just to inspect these documents right here. What I have here as they look through the. Hi, how's it? Good and you? Good.
Well, it's nice to put a face to the name, so welcome.
Yeah.
Yeah, good to have you.
They can go through. What they are going through are 5 documents. One of the documents that they will look at is something called STT, Securities Tax Transfer. That's one of the documents. One of them is, next one is an instrument of transfer that they will look at. The other one will be the minutes of the previous owners where issues around issued shares and authorized shares are dealt with, where they say they move from point A to point B. They will look at those minutes. The other one is a cancelled share certificate of previous owners, which shows that, which shows that there is no lingering anything with the previous owners. By the way, I did not even know them. I just bought a share of company. I thought this was general information, public information, that when you buy a company, this is what happens. But clearly, one has to do these kinds of explanations. The last document is the share certificate, which will reflect only Mzwanele Manyi as the sole owner. But you've got your colleagues here that are going through everything. You're quite welcome to even take copies or anything. This is a new era has dawned in the media, the new era of accuracy, transparency, and honesty. So for us at ANN7 in the New Age, we are saying to media, let's up this game. Let's make sure that our reportage is accurate. I wish Juanita Hunter was here because she wrote a very negative article and said, I'm a puppet on a Gupta string and so on. I wonder what evidences she got to say that. But this is what happened. So I'm hoping that Juanita Hunter type reportage must not be encouraged, because I think that's what denigrates the good name of media. You can't have people that operate as unethical as she's done. But anyway, anyone that wants to have a look again, they can come. These are my partners in the electronic space, so to speak. Yeah, I will take questions.
So if we look at this in a year's time,
Yes.
will there be different shareholders? So what I'm asking is there already a shareholder session
Yeah.
of shares in place?
So, sorry, Polly, because we're live, you have to have a microphone. Otherwise, our viewers are at a disadvantage. But basically what Paula van Wyk is asking, and she's with the Daily, Polly van Wyk, sorry, is with the Daily Maverick, is that will things change in a year's time with regards to their shareholding? Continue.
And is there a session of shares in place?
There's no, what's going to happen in a year's time will be transparent. Whatever happens, I don't know what's going to happen in a year's time, because what I've done, I've made it public that I'm looking for partners. And I've got a whole range of BEE potential partners that are already knocking at the door that want to be part of this. So subject to those discussions things may change. You might just have a 10% by this group or that group. But everything will be transparent, even if need be. We'll call this meeting again to say, here are the new the new other partners, as it were. But as we speak here and now, I think the question was, what is the status as we speak? And this is the status as we speak. And I would also like to hear, before your follow-up questions, what Philip de Wet's response is, having looked at the papers.
Thank you for these, Mr. Manyi. It's interesting to see this kind of transparency in the context of something of a spectacle, and I quite appreciate that. Thank you for putting some drama into the process of corporate inspections, which could have been a very simple process had you simply sent us these documents when we asked for them on the 21st of August. It's nice to be part of the process for once. We try to keep our heads down, but sometimes perhaps we shouldn't. You've said a number of things now, all of which are somewhat puzzling. One of which is you say that you believe that you had a right to privacy that would have overridden our right to inspect these documents. I don't know, sir, if you're familiar with the precedents that have been set in pretty much every court in this land in that regard. Do you think that companies have the right to withhold this kind of information, or that they should have the right to withhold this kind of information because of expectations of privacy?
No, I think there's, as you say, there's a case law on the matter, and I think the judgment was that the motives of whoever is asking the question is irrelevant. So I took all of that into consideration when I made the decision that let me do what I'm doing now. But obviously, I was coming from the base that in the past I was in the public space, in the public sector, where people really had a right to know what is happening in terms of their taxes and whatever, in the government space. Now I thought, here am I in the private space, I'm going to do my things in private. Little did I know that there's all kinds of rights of access and so on. But I'm not dragging my feet. Here it is. I've beat your 14 days deadline by a huge margin.
3 days. Thank you very much for that. You also told us in your statement that you consider it unusual, that you don't know that these kinds of requests happen in other circumstances. How is it that you know that? Are you familiar with how the rest of us in the media work in terms of COR 24 registration requests? I mean, would you consider this to be, I don't know, very unusual, to have not happened before in South Africa?
Look, I think if one had to look at the total number of transactions that have been done, and you look at the kind of interest and probe into this, I can't think, maybe you can give me an example of a startup company that had disclosed that we bought a shelf company as a special, let me just finish, as a special purpose vehicle to do a deal like this. And then you get this kind of barrage of input.
May I
do you have anything like...
For the purpose of all the other media houses that are here, Philip.
Can we see by a show of hands from our colleagues, all of who've been put into this
yeah.
room now, how many of you have submitted a CR24 request this year? How many of you have actually submitted CR24 requests? How many of your media companies
can the
have submitted
cameras focus on them
CR24?
so we can follow up on those
It
that
appears
raise
to be
their
only-
hands? Only one. You see?
So 3 of the companies here
No, but
have
look at
journalists who have
out of
submitted
40.
it.
All right, so
I
that it's
can
not
tell you
just
that it's a
one-sided,
fairly
and I
usual
understand
thing
that
and that you're not being targeted.
Philip, here's what it is. We understand that yours may be more pressing, but we do have to accommodate everybody else that's here. So if I may
Cindy,
please
you called
request...
us up into the
it's okay.
stage and made us
Philip,
part of
no,
the
as you've
process.
done, to
Don't now not
summarize
allow us
and
to
please
ask
go,
questions. That
as the
seems
moderator,
unusual.
that is my job. So please, if you don't mind,
Okay.
summarize what your questions are, and then we'll
These
take
are
the
my
rest from the
friends.
floor
Be
to
nice.
afford equitable time. That's what you pay.
Be nice to them. It's okay. Be nice to them. It's okay. Last question from you.
Well, let's then go back to your statement. You seem to suggest, sir, that President Cyril Ramaphosa did not, in fact, divest himself from Shanduka in 2014, as he said he had when he raised his vendor financing with Lonmin in 2016. Is that correct? Are you suggesting that the Deputy President lied when he said that he had divested himself from
Again,
Shanduka?
No.
Mr. Chair, if you'll allow me to get in here, I did say the ground rules were that we're talking about the acquisition of ANN7 and TNA. Anything beyond that we'll have to take offline. There's the share certificates that you had
From the
requested.
statement read by Mr. Manyi,
that's
he
okay.
himself
Granted,
raised
but
that
can we
issue.
just
I'm
try
simply
and keep
asking
the
him for
focus?
clarity
No, but-
about what
Granted.
seems to be a
No,
misstatement.
no,
All right.
no. I think it's a legitimate question, but I think is unfounded because I was simply making examples of where vendor financing happened. It's got nothing to do. The Deputy President, whatever he has said is correct and is the truth and is the Bible. What he has said in terms of blind trust and whatever else he has done when he moved from private sector to government. The only point I'm making here, which I continue to make, is that back then, he did a vendor financing. So the only point I'm making is just to give evidence that Mzwanele Manyi did not invent vendor financing. So when I do vendor financing, I mustn't get everybody excited as if I'm doing something that is not done. Where have you seen this being done before? So I was trying to give you examples of those that have done it before. That's got nothing to do with the current situation now. For all I care, he could have sold everything. We will take his word for it. So this is totally unrelated. I think this is this kind of obfuscation that we need to deal with in the media space. We should not do this and create a lot of dust and obfuscation around issues. But anyway, thank you for the question. Polly?
I would like to know, what do you pay per month back to the Guptas for ANN7 for your acquisition? And then I want to know, if I check this with your auditors, will they ratify this? Will they tell me all of this is by the book?
Yeah.
And following from that question, is this the only version of this? Or was there a version in between this and the share session from Christian Gous, who was the first shareholder?
Okay. I notice your disappointment that everything is straight. But let me finish. I really notice your disappointment that everything is here, it's all transparent. Now you're trying to find what could go wrong. And so let me just finish. Relax, you'll get your time. So I can assure you, this is the only version of the document that is. There's no other version. And if you think there is, I challenge you to put it in here. And again, this is a kind of innuendo that I detest, because it is important that when we deal with each other, we must deal with each other with trusting the bona fides of each other, unless you have a reason not to. I don't know what reason have I given to you, Polly, to think that when I say this is this, you think that maybe I'm hiding something, and so on. So there's no such a thing. And in terms of what I'm paying every month and all of that, that is a discussion on the new core and the arrangements and all that. And that's not the purpose of today. The purpose of today was for the public viewing of this. We are a media house. We will call more of these kinds of sessions for everything. As soon as we have crossed all the T's and dotted all the I's, we'll have another press briefing on the nitty-gritties of the transactions.
All right, Mr. Manyi, respectfully.
You can
and
take your seats
Pauline,
now.
Thank you. And Philip, and we'll have roving mics as well. Thank you so much. Can you please take your question from the floor with the rest of the journalists? Because we do have a quota and we have to accommodate everybody with due respect.
With due respect, so Mr. Manyi said I can just ask one more question because he said
You
I
see
can
what
have
the
my
new boss
time
is in
after
charge.
that. The new boss is very lenient. So just one last thing from me. Can you please explain to me or help me understand why every time I ask you a question that seems to be difficult, you fall back to the fact that you feel targeted, that you might be targeted because you're black? Mr. Manyi, I have asked very difficult questions of all people in this country. I have sent shareholder register inquiries to many, many people in this country, and they're not all black. In fact, they're mostly white. So why is it that we can't just discuss this situation and your acquisition of Lodidox and your acquisition of AN7 and TNA without discussing you feeling targeted?
Yeah, or making it racial. All right, thank you so much.
Here's the answer.
Thank you so much, Philip. If you please take your seat as well.
Here's the answer. I'm hoping my cameras can view on this. The answer is this, that without any evidence whatsoever, I think you get the wrath of your colleagues. It's not you personally. Maybe I was informed by this kind of negative reportage by Juanita Hunter, who just decided that I am a puppet. So everybody else that is asking, I'm already contaminated in my head that why do these people think I'm a puppet? So it's because I'm black, you know, and I don't apologize for this. Black people in this country are generally not trusted. If you look at even the positions that black people hold in this country, then don't get given line positions. They get given staff, support positions, and so on. It's a general institutionalized racism that we have in this country that we must deal with, and so on. And when I raise issues that indicate ingrained and institutionalized racism, people must see it as an opportunity to transform, because I'm not going to change that posture of challenging what I think is incorrect.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much, Pauline. Much appreciated. As mentioned, we'll also have the documents projected on our plasma screens behind us, so it is accessible to everybody. The reportage, of course, as Mr. Manyi has said, seems to have been negative. That's how he perceives it, that while this is supposed to be a watershed moment in the transformation of electronic media in the main and print media, is more treated with scrutiny because of the cloud of controversy with the previous shareholders. So any other questions, please introduce yourselves briefly and go for it. At the back here, the gentleman in the blue. Yeah, there we go.
Thank you. My name is Sabelo Skiti from the Sunday Times. Congratulations, Mr. Manyi, first and foremost. You have billed this transaction as a boon for transformation, and I know you to be a person who is very strong on transformation. Two questions just related to what you saw when you came here. Are you happy with the leadership of the company? Is it transformed? Do you intend to extend that transformation to trickle down from executives throughout the organization?
Okay. Another question, anybody?
We'll take a set of, say, 5 questions and then work through that. That gives us at least a quarter of an hour to deal with the questions, as many as possible. Hi, Catherine.
Hi, I'm Catherine from Times Live. When Daily Maverick and Times Live, with our lawyers, asked you to disclose shareholders, you tweeted, "Is it because I'm black?" And you mentioned you were being harassed. If you're the sole shareholder, you've got nothing to hide, why was your initial response that the media was harassing you?
Thank you so much for that. Next question, the gentleman in front here, Anil.
Good day. Samuel Amra from the Huffington Post. Mr. Manyi, can you maybe describe the process of how you acquired these companies from Oak Bay? Could you maybe describe, did they approach you? Did you approach them? Was the sale advertised, and how did you apply for it? Thank you.
Thank you, Adele. 2 more, please. Hi there.
Seho from Spotlight newspaper. Mr. Manyi, congrats. And from the previous post, we've seen that there was an issue here with staff complaining of being treated badly. So now that the management has changed and you are black and you have taken over, do you have anything that you want to do to change the situation so that maybe you can get a better positive response from the staff working here, especially journalists and reporters?
Uthola ukuthi he uThego ufuna sithole i-raise. So hey. And the last one for the session.
Hi, my name is Lorenzo Eckhart from Kyk Net Verslag. Mr. Manyi, what kind of influence will the previous shareholders still have on editorial decisions, not only 897 but the New Age as well, if any?
Thank you so much. Mr. Chair, we'll start with Sabelo's question about the leadership and if that's likely to change to be more biased to local shareholding.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. I think all valid questions. Okay, Sabelo, I think the issue of leadership that I have inherited here, I've said to the team that not one of them should feel that something is going to happen to them. I'm going to keep all of them. And because I think they bring a lot of experience and a lot of institutional memory. So they're going nowhere. But what we're going to do, we're going to grow the team. As we grow the team, we're going to make sure that we grow the team in line with the laws of this country in terms of equitable representation. So that is the approach. So nobody should feel victimized in this team at all. But we're going to, we are very bullish in terms of the growth of this business. We're already seeing some positive signs. If I can show you my emails, you see people that also want relationships with this business following the announcement. It's just unbelievable. So this business is going to go from place to place. It's going to go higher and higher. So we're going to employ in line with the laws of this country as time goes forward. You have a follow-up?
Yes. I just wanted to maybe clarify, Mr. very quickly. I think the first question was, are you happy now that the business is sufficiently transformed at the top and in the middle management?
Okay, yeah, no, I see the question. I think I bought, first and foremost, I bought the business in terms of its numbers and so on. And when I arrived and I looked at when I arrived and then looked at the staff and everything and greeted everybody, I think I've got very warm and very capable and passionate people. So I'm very happy with the people that I find here. I make no apologies about that. But in terms of whether the team reflects South Africa or not, that is going to be work in progress, and we're committing to ensuring that the team, top to bottom, must be the example of what employment equity requires. But as we do that, it's going to be done in a very proper way. You know, in terms of Section 20 of the Employment Equity Act, there's a process how you do that. But I don't want any apprehension from any of my staff here to think that because we're going to do that, therefore they are going to be victimized or anything. It's not going to happen. We are going to do that as we grow the business. So that's that one. The next question as to why I did not just respond and why did I respond the way I did. I obviously have my own brain, so I do what I think I want to do at the time when I think I want to do it. And if I change my mind, I have a right to change my mind, so I just changed my mind. But I think I must admit that I was also annoyed as well, that because the reason I was annoyed is because obviously I'm a South African involved in the social issues of the country. I'm quite sensitive to some of the issues. The fact that I'm not aware that this kind of probe has happened to anybody else is for me a reason for concern. Philip tried to get you to raise your hands here. Out of the 40, 50 odd of you that are here, only 3 raised hands to say that they have done this elsewhere. So that was clear evidence that if I say I'm victimized, that you have just proved it here. All of you here, this whole side, no one raised their hand that they've done this anywhere before. So it just, and then on this side, only 3 people. So clearly, here's evidence right there, live on television, that I'm the only one that was being targeted. So that's the answer to that one. How were the companies, I can't even see my own writing.
The process of acquiring the companies.
How companies acquired, who approached who and all that. This was my own strategy in terms of looking at the opportunity that presented itself. Here we had very good assets. As you can see, one of the reasons I brought you here is that you can see the world-class facilities that we have here. ANN7 is the only studio that can even turn around and all that. As you can see, all of this, none of you here has got these kinds of facilities. I wanted you to see this and all that. So that was the first thing, that I've been here, so I know the assets, and I could see them going to waste if I don't do this deal. But importantly, as a transformation agent, my biggest issue was the issue of jobs, of people. You know, when people do all their things out there, they don't think about the small people who have to live, small people that are out here who this is their only hope for them to raise their children, for them to go to school, for them to have a life. Now, if we were to succumb to the pressures that were out there, it would have meant 500 people in this business would have been without jobs. Can you imagine? So most of them are black. If you go around here, we have something like 1:5 ratio in our black families. So you can imagine if you multiply that, what are the kinds of mayhem we'd have brought to innocent lives purely because we're playing politics with people's lives. So I needed to intervene and make sure that we bring humanity and we prioritize humanity in all this. So that's why I thought then I approached them. And by the way, even the reason I went vendor financing was not just something that came from the sky. It was informed by frustrations I've had with IDC. Before buying this business, I was busy trying to buy another business, a 300 million rand stake in a listed entity. I go to IDC. I must have spent a good 18 months to 2 years toing and froing with IDC, them wanting everything. The first thing they said I must have 10% of 300 million. Where was I going to get 30 million? But somehow I could I could get 30 million arranged somewhere. Then that was not enough. Then they said, oh, no. You must be involved in the business yourself before we consider this. I said, okay, fine. I'm going to drop everything. I'm going to be executively involved. Then they said, no, you can't come alone. Where are the others? Then I said, okay, I'm going to put all the staff of that company in this deal. Then I thought I've ticked all the boxes. Then they said, no, the numbers you gave us are now stale. Give us new numbers. Huh? So then I gave new. Then it was that kind of a merry-go-round. Then I realized that, this is what happens with our own DFIs that are meant to drive development, that are meant to drive empowerment. So I decided that this is not the way to go. You can go to IDC, you can check the files there. They'll give you and to see how long I've been with them to try and do a deal. So when I went to the Guptas to say, guys, I think you must do this thing and financing yourself, is because I've already been beaten in the market out there. Now you can imagine, if I can't get finance from a DFI, what chance did I have if I went to a commercial bank? Because you would have thought that the DFIs have got more understanding and have got a transformation agenda in their heads. But for whatever reason, I was not lucky, and so on. So that's why I went to them and said, guys, by the way, also, I think the vendor financing is a good method. Also, if one considers the issues around reparations, as it were, I think indeed the Guptas have benefited in the country. So there's absolutely nothing wrong with the Guptas plowing back and so on, and in so doing, saving jobs and all of that. So absolutely nothing wrong with that. And I think if corporate South Africa was to do vendor financing deals, a lot more black people would be in the business space, because the biggest problem in these things is funding. these deals. So companies must understand that they've also benefited at the back of the people of this country. So vendor financing should be the most natural way and the most cleanest way to also demonstrate your patriotism to the country. Staff badly treated. I've had a staff meeting here which was also wrongly reported, but we're not going to go into that. But we had a staff meeting here. We had a very frank discussion with staff, and they've raised their issues, and we have agreed on a process to resolve their issues, part of which will include benchmark surveys in terms of the salaries and so on, and all that. But one of the things that was pointed out to me is that one of the fundamental differences between ANN7 and the New Age is that here we're a place where we grow new talent. So a lot of our staff members here, there are a lot of other experienced people, but it's a mixture. We also have a lot of new blood, new people that have seen this kind of environment for the first time. So what then happens, you then get things that, you get a comparison that's not making sense. You find that we've just taken somebody fresh from graduation or whatever, and we are growing them here. They are here a year or so. And all of a sudden, they are compared maybe with the Sikkim Kabatil, who's been around. And then people say, we're not paying the same salaries, when in fact are comparing.
I would have thought the first reference would be me, just a
Yeah, no, I think it must be from them, because they're gonna say I have.
You captured.
Yeah, they'll say you captured. Yeah. What kind of influence do the Guptas have in the business? I can tell you this right now: zero, absolutely zero. I call the shots here. In fact, you know, in the WhatsApp groups where I participate, people can see this. If you make a suggestion to me that you think we should do this, you see it happening the next day. I don't have to consult anybody on these matters. The only people I deal with is staff. And I suggest these storylines to them. They do their thing. They do their own editorial. I don't interfere with their decisions and everything. I don't wake up stressing about what headline is going to be there tomorrow. The people that do that. But what I will not say I'm not doing, I will not say I don't suggest things to. I really do. One of the things that we're going to be doing, there's one of my friends here, Ronnie McKenzie. He said, we want us to do, he's a farmer, this guy. He says he wants us to do a feature on the farmers and so on. He says a lot of the black farmers are getting ill treatment, whatever the story. But the team will go there and so on and have a look at that. So I'm telling you this now. That's what we're going to do. So I'm saying to anybody else, because we said ANN7 and the New Age is going to be a South African outfit that is going to reflect the things that happen in this country. I'm calling on everyone, if you've got any idea as to what is it that we can do better, the door is open. We are here, we are listening, and we want to do things that talk to the people that we serve. This is why we're here.
Mr. Manyi, we also have certain, various departments and, of course, the competencies when it comes to compiling the news. And everybody has their own input, just if I may chip in there. We're looking at having a media roundtable, so please make yourself accessible when the invitation does arise, and we can debate these matters on our platform, your platform, either way, but just in the interest of transparency and clearing the air. So that's the first batch of questions. 5 more questions, and then we'll have to wrap it up. No, please, boss. Okay. May we have questions on this side? We'll start on this side. Can we have the journalists that haven't asked questions as yet, and then we'll come back to you, Paul, if you don't mind, and Catherine.
Thank you. Mr. Manyi, just on, I hope you've had a look at the business model of ANN7 and the New Age. I've just got a couple of questions related to that. Firstly, both entities seem to have been heavily reliant on sort of government. I think I'll use the word sponsorship for now, for lack of a better word. But basically doing a lot of business with government. This is through the breakfast on television. the bulk copies that were ordered by, various government departments, parastatals, that sort of thing. Will you still be pursuing those relationships with government going forward? And then secondly, the newspaper. Will you consider being audited by the ABC for circulation figures?
All right, thanks, Sabelo. Polly, can we have Polly or Catherine? I think you have the closest mic to you. Yes. Catherine, thank you.
Hi. Mr. Manyi said he wasn't happy with the way the media questioned some of the financials around the business, the inflated 450 million paid. The New Age circulation is secret, so it's hard for us to know how many copies you do sell, how much advertising you get. Would you, in the interest of transparency, which you've spoken about today, make the circulation of the New Age open and public?
Thank you, Polly.
I just want to remind Mr. Manyi about the question that I asked regarding how he's going to pay back this funding, and also what sort of payment do you do per month? And then a new question, does Mr. Abdul and the other Guptas still have offices here in the building? And who owns the buildings here?
Thank you for that. A new question on this. Sorry, I didn't get your name.
Genevieve Quinzel from Business Day.
Welcome.
I just want to find out, is Lodidox the only owner of Infinity Media? I think at one stage Mabangela had shares. Have you bought those shares as well? Thank you.
Genevieve, thanks for that. Two more questions, please, folks. Hi, Philip.
Mr. Manyi, have you satisfied yourself that you have not received the proceeds of crime in buying this organization? And perhaps even more pointedly, should it subsequently turn out that ANN7 and the New Age were funded in part by money that belonged to the South African people, what will you do then? What recourse will be available to you, and how do you believe you should act should that emerge?
All right, one more. We have about 15 minutes, so I'm going to try and squeeze as many as possible.
Can you go back to Polly? I just didn't get all the questions properly. I just have how to pay and what other question?
I wanted to ask if the Gupta brothers and the Gupta associates still have offices here in the building or in this compound,
Okay.
and who owns the buildings of ANN7 and TNA?
All right, are those all the questions? Then we can spend more time in the response. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Sabel, one thing that us here in ANN7 and the New Age are not going to apologize for is for knocking at the door of government for business. We are not going to apologize for that. It's our right as a citizenry of this country to do that. Government has got something like 1.5 trillion rand for spending. Now, to try and stigmatize people that are chasing that spend is disingenuous. I mean, is a loaded question. Are you saying you want to have monopoly as Sunday Times or City Press or whoever in government business? Is that what you're saying? So just like all of you here have got government business, just like all of you here are chasing business from government, we are going to do exactly the same that everybody is doing here. So nothing is going to be different in terms of that. But not only government, we are also going to go to private sector. We already begun rekindling those relationships because people can see the freshness that we bring on the table. So indeed, we are really set up for serious growth in here. ABC, Audit Bureau of Circulation. We are going to have those discussions with the people concerned in that circulation to see whether we part of that or not. But right now, we are not so convinced about the credibility of that whole arrangement. There's been a whole range of, I think if somebody can just give me here some examples here. There's a whole range of challenges that have been brought to the fore in terms of the accuracy of these things. So let South Africa know that as we sit here and now, to pretend that ABC is watertight, is foolproof, is what is purported to be, is simply not true. There are all kinds of irregularities that obtain in that space. So we're not going to go into a thing that's not been cleaned out, as it were. So, but we are aware of it, but we want to make it clear that we are contesting the credibility of ABC. Very seriously so, we're contesting it. And we can give you specific cases that they've been challenged on them. I think one of them was the Sunday Times case and so on. But we can have a look in terms of that. But I can tell you now, to pretend that that thing is as credible as it's purported to be, simply not true. That's the first point. Our circulation, we're going to make them public. What we intend to do in the spirit of transparency, if I give you a number now, it's not going to make sense because I say so. So what we plan to do in this business is to use audited numbers. So we're going to get audited numbers for circulation. So we're going to appoint independent auditors that are going to do this. I mean, right now with ABC, I mean, even the whole arrangement, it's almost like police investigating themselves. You have a situation where the people that sit around the table, it's the media houses. They are busy regulating and policing themselves. I mean, what credibility is there? There's no independence in this thing, in this ABC. So let's not pretend that everything is above board there. It's people that are sitting, you scratch my back, I scratch your back kind of arrangement. So it's not something that we attach a lot of credibility to. But we think that it's also important for us to show numbers that can be backed up transparently and all. So in that regard, we will be putting into place audit competence to do that. It will be independent audit.
And media representation.
Okay. Who owns the building? I think we're leasing this building. Unless something different, I think we're leasing this building. And how to pay how to pay. As I said, that all of those arrangements, we will have a different new press briefing where we'll deal with the nitty-gritties of that. But at a high level, it's going to be paid off based on the profits of the company, so that's what is going to be paid off. But the nitty-gritty of that, at the appropriate time, when the new core is launched, we'll have a full-on on that. The office I occupy now is an office that was occupied by Atul. So he's totally out of here, he has cleared out. So there's no Gupta office left here. People that you see here are all executives and employees and so on that are not Gupta family or whatever. It's just employees that I see here. But I didn't go through the list. There could very well be a Gupta.
By association. No, but maybe it's Bongofanana, because they share the same.
Yeah, whatever. But the three main guys, as you know them, are not here, or four or whatever. But the main guys that you always show them in the picture with smiley faces and whatever are not here, and so on. So let that be clear. Am I the only owner of Lodidox? Yes, indeed, in Lodidox, I've just showed here. In Lodidox, I'm the only owner. Mapengela and others and so on, they're not involved in this. I think maybe we can have that discussion.
Sorry, just want to clarify, not of Lodidox. If Mapengela still has shares in Infinity Media, do you have partner shareholders in Infinity?
Okay, thanks for the clarification. No, they don't. There was another Essential Media, etc. All of those people, no, they don't. The only other shareholding that is not management in here is probably a 7% on the newspaper itself, just the newspaper on the TNA, the Times Media India. And the reason I've kept that is for skills transfer and what have you. If you go to that company in India, those people have got, I think, in the excess of 200 years of being involved in this space. They've got all the wheels and bells. It would be silly for us to dispense with them in terms of, skills transfer, technology, and whatever else that they do. So we're keeping that for our own strategic reasons, as I've said. Proceeds of crime and all that, I think as we see it here and now, there's absolutely not even a whiff of evidence from where I sit that is suggesting any criminal activity. And as I said, I think one of the considerations I had that had to do with the timing even of the announcement was the court case. Indeed, there was a lot of concern on my part when it was reported that some 72 suspicious transactions and all that. What does this mean? And whether the conduct of these shareholders in terms of their engagement with the minister, those were two things that worried me. Next thing, we go to court, and the court, the first thing they do, they say this is irrelevant, they chuck it out. Now, I have a lot of confidence and faith in our judiciary. Now, if our judiciary looked at these 72 transactions, did not find it warrants anything else other than to chuck them out, who am I to be lingering with all kinds of so-called suspicion? By the way, if you also understood how FIC decides that something is suspicious, you will know that there's actually nothing sinister about a so-called suspicious transaction. Why is that not sinister? It's not sinister because what happens is that on your know your customer basis, what happens, you get normed as a customer to say you generally spend this way, you generally do this, and so on. So you're sort of normed. So if there's anything that comes up against the norm, that becomes a suspicious transaction. Now, it's important not to confuse a suspicious transaction with an unlawful transaction. I think the problem in the media out there is that there is a conflation of these issues. People conflate suspicion with unlawfulness. No such a thing. I make an example, a simple example, to say even in your own personal accounts, when you know your customer, the banks are tracking your activity. Just now they see money coming in. They don't know where it comes. Even sometimes, in my case, I even had a call, some money coming from Old Mutual. And I thought because it's Old Mutual, there will be no questions. But they still asked, what is this about? No, I liquidated something from Old Mutual. Okay, then they tick a box and so on. So you get those kinds of so-called suspicious when in fact is maybe transactions that warrant explanation. As soon as you've explained, there's nothing. But the important thing is that the court did two things. One, it chucked them out. So therefore, I was relieved that if there was any unlawfulness, court would not have chucked them out, number one. Number two, even the conduct of the shareholders that Praveen had said that they said they must intervene and so on, and they looked at it and they dismissed the case with costs. So I again got more confidence that I'm dealing with people that despite how badly they are painted in the media and so on, but our courts, our independent judiciary has come out to say they have no issues here.
Mr. Manyi, we're going to have to leave it there. Thanks so much, Chairman of Lodidox, joining us here with members of the media. We really appreciate your time, and we hope that we'll see more of you here at African News Network and TNA. And for you at home, thanks indeed for joining us as well. We're back after this.